To politics, Catholic bishops in Nigeria have raised the alarm over what they described as the suppression of opposition voices, warning that Nigeria is gradually sliding into a one-party state. The bishops expressed this concern in a communique issued at the end of the plenary meeting of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria held in Akwa Ibom State. The communique was signed by the Archbishop of Owerri and President CBCN, Lucius Ugoji, and Bishop of Uromi and Secretary CBCN, Donatus Ogun. The bishops cautioned politicians against pushing the nation towards a one-party state, which they argued is unhealthy for democracy. To discuss this, we are joined by Director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thoughts, Dr. Sam Amadi. Dr. Sam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening.
All right, so let me get to know this from you. Are there institutional weaknesses in Nigeria's democratic setup that make the drift toward a de facto one-party state more likely?
Well, there are many. First, I think, African countries are coming from the background of one-party states where it was ideological. We saw that in many African states after independence. And the idea that Africans are communitarians, Africans are not used to palaver, disagreement, and that therefore that the idea party to mobilize everybody towards a grand national development strategy and project was to have a one-party state. And recently, I think Uganda president talked about the movement. But look, the key point here is that the lack of competitiveness, which arises from the fact of the nature of civil society in Africa, in Nigeria particularly, again, ethnic cleavages and so on and so forth, means that there is a sense in which being at the center, being in power, becomes an all-consuming, narrative and preoccupation. And therefore, there are no serious competition around versions of the Nigerian state. So in real democracies, political parties champion perspective of social contract. So let's say in Nigeria, the APC would have the idea of a particular version of the Nigerian state, and then the PDP will have a different version, the Labour Party will have a different version, maybe a workers-oriented. And so with that socialization, their cadres, their leaders come from that perspective. And so each election, there is a competition around values, around vision, around programs. Now, that creates a sense of pluralism. But where the commitment is to win power for the sake of economic and social goods, namely mostly economic goods, there is no pluralism. Only have plural platforms. And so when elections are over and some people form government, the propensity for those who are on the other side to cross over, not in a form of reconciliation, not in a form of national transformation. I don't mind a one-party state that is focused on a grand development strategy like they had with the Japanese, they have the Koreans and Asians. That could be mitigated. So what we lose in terms of political pluralism, we gain in terms of development. But what we have today is a one-party structure or emerging one-party propensity that is oriented towards power as a means to the end of economic development for self. And so this lack of ideology and this murderous competition for access to power for purposes of primitive accumulation, as people say, is one of the factors driving the propensity towards what is now called a one-party state. Now, the only problem is this, that this is not a one-party state that's going to last. This is a one-party state where the same competition over political power, the same commitment to make money from politics will cause a division and a falling away. And so if after this electoral cycle, you're going to see another multi-party, people who lost out in the primary, staking a claim in other parties and then using those parties to see if they can get to power. So we're going to fall into plural party, multi-party, but that don't have the character of real party competition, where the tendency is for those who lose out to want to go back to government and do primaries, they fall out again, they use parties as structures to see if they can get to power. So these are some of the reasons why today we see everybody seeming to fall into one party. But I have my doubts if really we're going to have one party after primaries, and then it becomes difficult for the APC, which is now the bride, to accommodate all the conflicting political interests. And then you will see a new relaunch back to multi-party for the purpose of election. And after that, you see convergence again to one party as it seems.
That's a very interesting take on the subject matter. Now, how would you evaluate the role of the Independent National Electoral Commission in either reinforcing or resisting these trends that we're seeing?
Absolutely. The fact of lack of credible election in this country is what is driving this convergence. Like I said, it's not ideological. One-party states are oftentimes ideological. Oftentimes, the creation of strong politicians who bring everybody together and create an ideology, a hegemony in the mind of national development. But here, because elections are incredible, elections are flawed, because the Electoral Commission is actually rubber stamp, basically allow politicians to rig election left, right, center. Because the courts, unlike the courts in South African countries, interestingly, Malawi just had an election 2 days ago. In 2019, Malawi presidential election was nullified by the Supreme Court of Malawi because of mutilation, cancellation on the vote tally sheet. This is what, if you look at 2023 election in Nigeria, Rivers State, all the result sheets were all altered and mutilated. Neither INEC nor the courts could have the courage to say, this is not acceptable. So what is driving this convergence is simply that politicians think that we're not going to have free and fair election. And so the party in power at the federal level control INEC, control the judiciary, control the military. Like I once said that in Nigeria, the strategy to win election is simple. Buy INEC, buy the court, and buy the security. So this is the real factor here. Because essentially, if elections are free and fair, why would a governor of Delta State really decamp when he's strong? Why would a governor of Akwa Ibom in a safe seat, strong, ever decamp? Why? These guys are strong. These guys are in charge. Their party is strong. So what's the point? So what is driving this so-called convergence to one party is actually the fact that the politicians don't trust elections. And so everybody is thinking about, they're going to rig me out and then go to court. And I'm going to go to a court that is bought and purchased and pocketed. So the moment elections are free and fair, you're not going to have the phenomenon of one party state anymore, because everybody knows all you need to do is to be popular in your party, be govern well in your state, then you are guaranteed victory. So you see real multi-party. In fact, you will see independent candidacy if they put in the constitution, so that somebody can run an election and the masses say, that's the guy we want. And then they win. But as of today, the only reason people are decamping is that they want to take advantage of the incumbency factor, where the party in power at the national has control of the electoral system, has control of the police, has control of security and the court. And therefore, basically, you can't defeat them. And that's why Nigerian democracy has now been classified as electoral autocracy by the Verities of Democracy, VEDEM, the World Global Report on Democracy. Says Nigeria has moved from hybrid to electoral autocracy. And that simply means that our elections are now shambolic. They mean nothing because they're not competitive. And incumbents who are powerful will not lose. Ruling parties will have a way of winning election. And that's what is driving this movement towards one party. So the Kali bishops are right, but then the real focus is electoral reform. If you have genuine electoral reform and we have elections where results are declared at the polling unit through a secured portal that's open to everybody. And every result not taken to the portal real time is disallowed by INEC and discounted by the court. You're going to see that nobody will ever think about, decamping to the ruling party. They will basically focus more on doing the right thing, in governing well, and win the trust of the people to be re-elected.
All right, thank you very much. Director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, Dr. Sam Amadi. Thank you so much for those insightful opinions.